It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and
Good
downs.
morning and welcome to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. I'm Gene Sullivan.
And I'm Tony Crockett. Hi, Gene.
Hi, Tony. We've got a lot of stuff that we're going to cover today. This first story, for example, is one that comes out of Colorado. And this is a guy who is an attorney, and he's retired, and he's suing his association. That's a bad combo whenever you have that.
Yeah. A lawyer with too much time on his hands that can't
Lawyer with too
only
much time on his
be
hands.
dangerous.
We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to turn our attention to Florida. You know, in Florida, they've got so many more state statutes and rules governing homeowner associations than we do here in Minnesota. And I just hope that half of that just never comes this way. But we're going to be talking about the state statute in Florida that apparently seems to be specific enough to state to an association who you can and can't have on some of your committees as a homeowners association. We're going to talk about that. Is that a good idea? And then we're also going to turn our attention to another story here a little bit later on in the show in the state of Oregon. The Supreme Court put a little footnote at the end of a decision, and it's got everybody in a tizzy because it changed the statute of limitations, or apparently so, on defect litigation and claims. Ooh. And if this goes through, this could wipe out a lot of claims that are on the books ready to be looked at right now.
Wow.
And they seem to be really mixed up. A lot of judges knowing which do we follow, the state statute, the Supreme Court case here.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that as well.
All right.
And, of course, so much more, too. But it is, of course, what we do the first hour every time here on Where You Live. We have property management in the news. And property management in the news is brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need to get rid of unwanted pests in your home or rental property, you want to call someone who's responsive, professional, and a proud member of Angie's List. Give owner Greg Keener a call at 952-894-9748. That's Pest Control Services. Well, let's turn our attention to that first story out of Aspen, Colorado, and it's entitled, Add a Pinch of Ego and a Dash of Lawyer. It begins by saying, you know, some legal cases live on for a single doomed reason. Both sides realize that it makes no sense to fight on, but each becomes absolutely convinced that they will win all legal fees from the other side. Both believe the judge will see their cause and will back that up, and they will end up having the other side eat up all their attorney's fees for bringing this up. That's probably pretty common, I think, with a lot of people. They kind of feel that, don't you think, Tony, that they're going to win and they're going to get all their money and costs and even made-up costs, too.
Right. I think that fuels lawsuits much longer than they should be. Should be pursued.
I think the person who started writing this story really hit the nail on the head with the way people take a look at the legal system here. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, see it as sort of a payday. Now it says, mix this dilemma with the egos that are present in the average homeowners association, and you have a stew destined for a train wreck.
Apparently, this train has a dining car.
Yes. Or I think there's no caboose on this train of thought. This guy is just mixing his metaphors.
Yeah, that's a little weird. But I think we know what he meant.
We know what he meant. We have a stew destined for a train wreck. I don't know what that would look like. But as I've always said, a bird in the hand gathers no moss. Let's take. So here's the case here, Tony. It's a modest 11-unit condominium complex that's tucked away at the base of Aspen Mountain, and this fight started with a busted sewer line. But of course, it's not ending there. The problem arose in a unit that was owned by Bob and Judy Francis. And now Bob, so it seemed, he was ending up with an insurance adjuster's agreement 2 years ago to pay $7,779.48 for the cost of this repair. But the homeowners board disagreed with Mr. Francis over whose problem this was to begin with. Francis felt the sewer lines were a common element and therefore the association's
so it sounds like even though his insurance covered it and paid for it, he still had a dispute with the association as to whether it was his responsibility or the association's responsibility.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's making the argument that, hey, it should have been the blanket property and liability policy for the homeowners association that covered this.
Yeah, and sometimes people get very concerned when it comes to insurance. And I think we've probably stated it over and over again for our listeners. When it comes to insurance with a homeowners association, you have two policies. You have a master policy and you have what's called an HO6. And both policies are to be used and will be used at different times.
Sure, that's right. It seems like this is a fight right from the outset that wasn't really worth fighting.
Oh, exactly.
It's paid for. It's done. And now you're going to sit and nitpick.
You would think, yes, for anybody's just sake here too. One insurance claim is not going to raise someone's premium.
We run into that all the time with boards that are just so freaked out.
We can't.
They don't even want us to call the insurance company if we have a question about whether something is a claim or not. And that's gonna up our rates. We can't do that. Why have insurance then? And
there's a lot that we don't know here anyway. If this guy's HO6 policy paid all $7,779, it's probably because the master policy has a $10,000 deductible.
Oh, that could be. Yep.
Otherwise, this guy's HO6 would have paid X amount and would have turned to the association's master policy for the rest.
That's right.
Because the insurance company isn't going to pay for more than they have to.
That's another good point. It's really not up to us as managers or to the individual homeowners whose insurance covers what. That's up to the insurance policies and the insurance companies, isn't it?
Yeah, people are you don't need to defend your insurance company. They will pay or they won't pay.
So this argument was totally unnecessary.
I think so. Yes. So anyway, he's upset. He wants to make a point here that this was the association's, and he has this insurance money. But that, of course, is not the entire story
because there were other problems.
That is right,
as always.
And here was the big one. It says the other problems were this: the board was starting to change how each owner was assessed. Not surprisingly, units owned by board members, by and large, saw their dues drop. Mr. Francis's fee went up.
Can I say something about this? I was very surprised when I read this. Not surprisingly, units owned by the board members saw their dues drop. What kind of comment is that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's so loaded, and I would be shocked if I worked with a homeowners association where the board said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise everyone else's dues, and we're going to lower ours. I'm sure we can get by with that.
Yeah, That'll fly.
That'll fly at the annual meeting.
So, so the person who's writing this story, of course, is making it sound as if that's exactly what happened.
Well, and he made a comment about the egos present in the average homeowners.
Yes.
So he's making a lot of blanket kind of statements that aren't true.
Yeah, and remember, the board is only a portion of all of the members.
That's right.
If all of the members felt that the board was doing something just to enrich themselves, they weren't going to allow this to happen.
They shouldn't.
And something like this doesn't happen by board fiat. This happens
because
the association agrees that there needs to be something changed.
Mm-hmm.
But that, of course, I guess kind of slipped by the person who wrote the article here. But anyway, you've got this fueling the fire as well. So you've got Mr.
So you've
Francis.
got the insurance claim issue.
And now he says, hey, now you're charging me a lot more. And he is really upset.
Tell me, who is the retired attorney in this scenario?
That's Mr. Francis.
Ah, okay.
Where the issue happened.
All right.
And I think we should go on, but we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the plight of the retired attorney with his homeowners association after these messages.